Hi, it's Taimour Zaman from 1 Million Acts of Education, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can develop your culture to align with some of the projects that you're trying to do. And one of the biggest challenges facing chief marketing officers, chief digital officers is all around culture. Questions and that I constantly hear are issues like, for instance, how do we align the digital natives in our company to work with the older generation that need to see predictable results? How do I reach across the board and convince the CEO on the board on the digital transformations that we're going through? How do I get the CFO to see the value of, let's say, marketing or digital? These are some common ones. And the challenge is that most often people have no training on the word on culture change. And when I mean culture, I don't mean communications, I don't mean teamwork, I mean culture. So with that, I decided to invite one of my good friends, Melvin Young. What makes Melvin really unique is the entire practice of his organization and culture system is just culture. It's not, his organization is not a company that's a one-man coaching company trying to do cultural work. It's not a team of consultants trying to cut and paste other culture models. They actually do simply focus zero in on culture. So it's a little bit about background about Melvin and Melvin. So I just want to first of all welcome and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. So one of the biggest things that I'm constantly hearing from folks is how do I attract talent? And I think talent is a big issue for lots of corporations, specifically talent who understands your business. And one of the things that we've understood is anybody can put an ad to get, I don't know, app developers or programmers to come into a company. But none of this, it's something to do around the world culture. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you to share from your experience of companies you're working with, what do corporations need to do simply from a talent acquisition perspective first?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny, Taimour, because if we listen to your language at the beginning of your question, we pretty much hit it on the head right at the get-go. You said the word attract the right talent. And I think the challenge that most companies are facing today is that they're spending time trying to find these people. And the problem is, if you're trying to find these people, there's a couple things you're going to come across. Is A, they're already working somewhere, and B, they don't know enough about your company to be even wanting to get engaged in a conversation with you. So the question really has to go from where do we find these people and how do we find them and what is the strategy and who do we use to get them and who's the best recruitment firm to help us get these people, to how do we become an attractive enough company so that the talent out there that we require or need to move forward knows about us. How do we attract them into our organization? Not only how do we attract them into our organization, how do we use our culture? How do we use our vision? How do we use our values so that it makes a loud enough noise that the talent out there can actually hear about us? So a great example of that is Zappos. We hear of some of the greatest talent in the world being in a position where, you know, they may have a great paying job. They probably have a pretty engaging job. And then they hear about this company called Zappos. Mm-hmm. And they hear about how their culture is and how much fun they have at work and they have a fabulous training system and a great culture that's conducive to really bringing your life into work rather than having to come there and button up and then go home and unbutton and relax. You can bring your life right into culture. So right into Zappos. And that's really attractive for a lot of talent out there, because a lot of talent, you know, they go out and they learn all these skills. They start understanding business, and then they go into the workplace, and typically something shifts in them. They leave their home life to walk into this business culture, and something gets left behind. And when they find a business where they can walk into and nothing has to be left behind, then they can really show up fully. And that's exciting for them. So Zappos, they've attracted some of the greatest talent in the world. And some of this great talent took pay cuts by 50%.
Wow.
You know, to go and work for another company. But the upside is much bigger. it doesn't matter if you're a small company or a big company. Every company has the ability to make a big noise. Every company can create something. And I think a lot of companies are stuck in the stages of, well, I gotta work in order to make money, and I gotta keep my customers happy. But, very few companies are spending time working on their company. They're spending a lot of time working in the company. So we have to dedicate some time to create something new and special that really comes from the heart. It's not a logical process, by the way. So when we're working with organizations, they think we're going to bring in some sort of logical step-by-step process that's going to help them create an awesome culture. But creating a culture has to be unique, and it comes from the heart. And if you're spending enough time looking at, what's special about our company, and if there's nothing special, because some companies, there's nothing special about it, create something special. And when you create something special and you work on developing that, you will attract the right talent. Speaking from a cultural perspective, first of all, I know herding people is like herding cats, like trying to get a bunch of cats together. It's a hard thing to do. And, but we can't look at it as if we're trying to pull people together and we're trying to make people, do something in common. It's very important that, going back to the creation process, when you create something unique, a unique vision, a unique set of values for your organization, a unique mission strategy, that it's very important to find people that are aligned with that. Now, in your company right now, if you were to create all of this, you may find that maybe half your organization is not engaged and not in line. But yet they still have some great talent. And that's okay. We never say that a great sports team, like every single person has to be 100% aligned. It's about bringing up the engagement and the alignment. So I think once you create that culture, once you create that unique vision of where you want to go, now it's about, developing and training and continuing to attract the right people who are already there. So this goes right back to the recruitment question. Now we have a great culture, we have a great vision, we're all excited about it. Now we use all this stuff that we've developed to go out there and make a big enough noise so that we can attract the right people inside the organization. So when we're doing a recruitment strategy, we're not testing people just solely based on skill set and, behavioral test. We're doing a really strong test against the core values of the company. Like, it's not just some questions we're asking. We're really testing. We want to make sure that 3 months later, the same person is showing up as the same person in the interview today. So, in order to develop that process, it goes right back to culture. What is our vision? What is our mission? What are our values? Is it unique? Is it fun? Does it make a difference? Does it have an impact out there? And if you're answering that question and you're creating that for your organization, then it's inevitable that you're going to find more and more people that are aligned with that. And again, if you're operating a company and you got 60% and up people who are fully aligned with your vision, that's huge. I mean, I think after 50%, you're going to get a major tipping point in your organization. So I think some organizations, when I go in and do an assessment, it looks like maybe 10 to 15% of people even understand what the company vision and mission is, and the details of the strategy. Sometimes even the core values. So again, if those things are not in place, like how do we accomplish attracting the right people? How do we accomplish, really making a loud noise? And how do we accomplish getting people to come into an office, leave their families, and come work towards a common goal? There has to be something bigger than, let's make money and let's become the best in our industry. First step would be benchmarking. Benchmarking meaning really having an assessment of what's going on. I think it's easy to point out all the challenges we have inside of an organization and where the bad behaviors are coming from. But it's really, you got to go deeper than that. You got to look at the source of these problems. Like, where is it coming from? Because if I'm going in as the chief culture change guy in any organization, I want to make sure the job gets done. So I need to know the source of the issue. And, you know, some companies may say, well, it's this group or this person or this strategy, but really leadership is driving all of that. And we need to look deeper into the language. We need to look deeper into the behaviors. We need to look deeper into the understanding that the people have of the business and the vision and the strategy of the company. Because if we're not able to find the source of these challenges, then, you know, I may look pretty with some really nice strategies as I come inside the organization, but I'm not going to nip that issue in the bud. I'm not going to really take care of it. I'm not going to be able to transform it. And, you know, it takes a company to get down to the truth. You know, part of my assessments is really looking at the truths of the organization. I don't think you can transform any situation, any culture, any home, any relationship unless you're dealing with the truth. So the assessment has to really uncover some, I would say, deep underlying issues that I call it's the unspoken language of an organization. It's, you know, we all know deeply what's going on in the organization. We just don't really talk about it. It's easier to say it's this or it's that, or I think it's this. But we never really go into that conversation. So I would start there. Let's get the truth of what's going on. Otherwise, don't hire me because we're not gonna be able to resolve anything.
So what do you do once you find the truth?
So once we have the truth, well, you know, it's funny. You would think it's hard when you find the truth. It's so much easier when you find the truth. Because now you can develop a strategy that can nudge that culture forward. See, I wouldn't go into an organization, especially the larger, I think it's a bit harder because, you know, change takes some time. And we can throw in all the greatest strategies in the world, and but if those strategies are not designed and implemented in a nudging process, like step by step, then you can just create more chaos in the organization and actually lose talent that if only the change was here, they would be the people, the most innovative people inside the organization. But they might leave, or they might be confronted with the change if it's happening too quick. So the second step would be designing strategies that have a nudging process, meaning you're moving that culture forward a little bit at a time, rather than, you know, any strategy that can have like a major impact throughout the organization or maybe on one department. You don't want to have too much of a quick change, I believe, in any organization. I mean, if you just ask yourself, when was the last time you went through some change?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
How hard was that? So we have to have that kind of expectation when dealing with an organization or any team. We have to understand that this is going to take time, and these are people's lives. And as a company, we're responsible for that. This is where I always say, slow down, before you speed up, because to attract the right talent, you have to become an attractive company. Nobody's coming on board unless you become an attractive company. Nobody that's going to make a significant impact in your business anyway.
Right.
So how you become an attractive company is you create an attractive culture where employees can grow, where they can make a difference, where they don't have to leave home and change their attitude to come to work. They can actually walk into work and be them. And, the more attractive your company is, the more you're going to be able to attract people that you didn't even know. I mean, it's great that you know everybody in the industry. That's awesome. Or all the players in your business. How about the players you don't know? And there's a reason why you don't know them. And it's because they don't know you. They haven't heard of you. They have no idea who you are. And, the best networking in the world isn't where you go out chasing people. It's when everybody knows you. So it comes right back to culture. So in that situation, this company went from, I would say they were the best kept secret in their industry. They had all the best tools. They already had some really great talent inside of the organization. They were just missing leadership, like how to strategically move the company forward. So for them, they knew everybody out there, but nobody knew them was the challenge. they were like the best kept secret in the industry. They had all these tools and all these great things to really impact their clients and make a difference. So we had to reverse this thing of, okay, great, you know everybody. How do we get them to know you? And what are we going to get them to know you for? And we said, let's forget about that right now. Let's go work really hard on your culture. Let's get where you're going. Let's understand you. Let's understand your vision, your mission, your values. Let's start implementing this stuff inside your organization. And how they attracted this person was pretty brilliant. That person who now is leading their organization sold a company. And he built the biggest company in their industry, sold the company, could not work in the industry for 5 years. 5 years and 1 day later, he could have worked for any business in the entire industry. And this is for promotional products industry. And he decided to go and work with my client. And when he made a press release about why he went to work with this company, he said, number one reason why I went to work with the company, because they're working hard on themselves.
Isn't that
and that's a big part of their culture, to work hard on themselves. Personal development is a big part of their culture. They have a library, they read, they go to seminars, they're constantly looking at themselves. And then they built this whole culture about just becoming really good individuals and making an impact on their clients. So again, that's how they attract this talent. Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I went through a lot of personal development, especially over the past 12 years. And I believe I started at the right place. And when I look back at this, I didn't know what personal development was. I only saw one motivational video in my life before this. And I ended up in a course called Landmark Education.
Oh, okay.
And it's so funny, Taimour. I went there because all my friends who were making really good money had done this course. So I thought I was going to a course to learn how to make money. And it is so funny, but I go in there and it was so transforming because it allowed me to look at me for the first time in my life. And I think in leadership, if you're going to excel in leadership, you have to get that the line draws back to you all the time. And so it was, looking back now in retrospect, it helped me with all the rest of my leadership courses that I've ever taken. It helped me understand them, I think, a heck of a lot better. But right from the get-go, I knew that I had to take responsibility. Like, it's not that person's fault and not that person's fault. I actually wouldn't talk to that other person. I'd talk to the client who thinks he has an issue with that person. And I would let that person know, and I would give them some real examples that maybe the person doesn't get it because of the way it's being explained. We all live in different worlds. We see things differently. And there is a way to communicate. And I would ask them, would you like me to help you for free? Communicate your message to this person. And let's see if they don't understand you anymore.
That's awesome.
Because if it's delivered the right way, then I'm sure they will understand. See, the biggest challenge with a lot of these executives is they don't get the way they process information is different. You might be visual, I might be kinesthetic, this person might be auditorial. We learn different. And, as a part of a great culture, it's to learn about how others learn. So if I'm sitting here with you, Taimour, I know you're a very visual guy from the first time I met you. I could tell by the way you move, the way you talk, and the things that you do. I could see you're a very, very visual person. So it's important for me to give up my kinesthetic world. I'm talking a little process here, but for me to give up how I learn and start speaking to you the way you learn. So that's just an example. When you got two executives, the one executive is not willing to give up the way he learns. He may learn one way. He's not willing to give it up.
It's learning how the other person learns.
Yeah, if you can learn how they learn and you can give up your way of communicating, you can now help this person understand a heck of a lot more. A couple places. One is culture-systems.com, and Twitter, just under Malvin Young, at Malvin Young. I guess that's the way it works. I'm not even sure how Twitter works, but mainly through my website, which is culture-systems.com.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.